So there's been a lot of talk about the fear of AI eliminating jobs for human beings. Some of us have that fear. How do you suggest we can kind of quell those fears? I know there's been discussions of ways to integrate it or partner because it's not going to go away. So, what tips or advice do you have that we can address that?
I think I would just say, and I think if you're here, you're interested in this topic, I think it would just say you have to just jump in. It's not going away. And we just need to figure out how to best augment what we're doing using some of these tools. And, one of the ways that I like to look at it is if you just take a step back and you find that use case, like I'm going to have you assist me do this one small task, and you realize, oh, that's AI. You'd be using a technology of some sort to help you in some capacity. So why not try this AI tool that can learn as you are learning, get smarter as you're getting smarter. And when you put it into to one specific use case, that's a good way to say, okay, this isn't this big scary thing. What can I do next? And when you go to your business leaders who might be afraid of it, if you can go to them and say, here's a problem I'm trying to solve, and here's a technology I'm going to use, and don't use the word AI, don't lie to them. But I mean, like just let me show you what I can do, show these results, and then say, here's this tool that I use. Oh, and it just seems like, okay, we're trying to help the business grow. We're trying to increase revenue or do whatever you're trying to do. And this isn't AI that's helping me.
I would say when I grew up, we went to school, we went to the library, we asked our teachers questions, we asked our parents questions, and the internet didn't exist. And all of a sudden now, young people today have human knowledge at their fingertips through AI. So I'm really excited about the opportunity for workforce development and people to integrate AI into their toolkit, especially for youth. I think it's going to be a democratizer where it's going to allow rural Appalachian young people to access the same kind of information that others do. And one saying I think really is apropos is that AI is not going to take your job. Someone that knows how to use it will. So there's been quite a few studies that OpenAI and others have done about projecting workforce. It appears that lower level jobs are most at risk, but they're most at risk for automation anyway. But the overall economic impact of AI is projected to increase higher paying jobs as well. It's going to be disruptive, no doubt about it, but an opportunity.
I just would echo that. I was going to say the exact same thing, is that the people who will be the most successful are the ones that are going to embrace technology to our benefit so that we can free ourselves to be even more strategic, more creative, more innovative, and not using it as kind of like when cell phones first came out. I remember people like, I don't want people to be able to find me all the time. Like, you can leave me a message at home, right? And so the more we embrace the tools that we have, the better, from my perspective, the better marketing we can do, the more refined we can make our tactics and skills. So I couldn't agree more with that statement.
All good advice. Well, next, we're going to ask our panelists 3 questions each, just to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So the first question is going to go to Mayor Johnson. And so you've talked a lot about kind of some of the ways that you've used it in terms of grant writing primarily, but how can local governments leverage their technology to improve their delivery of services?
I think all local governments are constrained in terms of resources, capacity, and staff. So being able to look at what are the how are our staff spending their time and which kinds of tasks can be automated and use AI to help will really be a big deal. The ability to upload your policy manuals, your operating procedures, and to create bots which are human-like responders that can answer questions. That can help, I think, take off a lot of the phone calls that are there as well. And as I said, we're using it for grant writing in particular, where it's higher functioning. It's able to get staff that maybe aren't familiar writing grants into writing grants and being able to be successful at it.
Okay. And you've talked a lot about, to summarize, kind of more helping governments be more efficient in the delivery of their service. Are there any other benefits that local governments? I know there were a lot of questions in your session about cost, and I don't know if you can maybe talk about low cost options for people just starting out and don't have a big budget.
Yeah, right now, most of the platforms are fairly free. Some of them are $20 a month, and there's a plethora of now of plugins or new applications that are being developed, and those are typically $20 a month. So you can try them out probably before you subscribe to them. The cost is not that high right now. What we're seeing though is the Google, Microsoft, and the large tech companies are integrating cutting edge applications into their main platform. So if you look at Word on Microsoft, it's starting to integrate in it. Microsoft Teams is integrating being able to summarize a meeting to show follow up. So the main platforms are all integrating it into their services. So I think it's probably you could spend a lot of money maybe with consultants trying to figure out how to do something, but they'll be probably fairly quickly evolving as standard tools from the major platforms.
Okay. You've talked about grants in particular, using AI to complete those, and I know when we were prepping for this, you were giving an example of a time savings, but it'd be great to maybe share another example with the audience and kind of what the return was on investment.
Using AI for grant writing is evolving as we speak, and just in March is when Microsoft and Google came out with their AI platforms, and they're updating them weekly. And where they are now is they're able to access the internet and read and understand notice of funding opportunities, for example. So if you go into an AI platform and ask it, can you locate a notice of funding opportunity for ODOT or something like that, and then it can say yes, I can, and then you can just verify that it knows what it's talking about, and then it can go into helping you draft and be able to turn around an application in the time period that in the past we wouldn't have been able to do so quickly. So it's allowing our team to do more grants in less time, and landing a few of those grants really pays off and is worth the investment in time and effort.
Thank you so much. So our next round of questions goes to Kathy. Which professions will be forced to change due to the evolution of AI? Two-part question. And then which professions will be fully replaced, or do you anticipate being fully replaced?
I think that so we talk a lot about at our company about AI native companies, AI emergent companies, and obsolete companies. The AI native are the companies that have had AI baked into their product or service or their marketing or everything since day one. AI emergent are those that are transforming their business model or their services or what they're doing from a marketing perspective using AI tools. And then the obsolete are the ones that are sticking their head in the sand and aren't doing anything. So I think, very generally speaking, the ones that aren't paying attention to this are going to be left behind. So I think rather than saying it's going to be translate, people that transcribe copy or things like that. I mean, there are some people that are going to need to reskill themselves because AI can do what they're doing and better and faster. But I think generally speaking, if you can get ahead of that and reskill your team, reskill yourself, and learn ways that you are irreplaceable, then you're going to stay ahead. We actually just made 2 hires that are starting in September. Hooray. And we actually went through their job descriptions before we posted them. And we made sure that, to our knowledge today, which I'm sure will change in 6 months, that all of the items that we had them doing was still going to make sure that they were needed in 2 years. We did not want to hire someone to have to get rid of them. So thinking about that when you're hiring and looking for work, what will AI be able to automate on these things? And we're all guessing right now. We're making educated guesses on the information that we have, but we wanted to make sure to have these young adults in the best position where we were going to make sure they were going to still be needed.
So it sounds like anticipating future needs is really key to kind of planning and then embracing the technology. Thank you. So privacy and intellectual property have been brought up as concerns as we talk about AI. As we've seen with current writers' strike in Hollywood, there's also a real fear of, AI replacing humans. Who, in your opinion, who should be in charge of the ethics surrounding AI?
I think we all need to be in charge of the ethics. We need to be responsible. We need to think about what we're doing. We need to think about, my biggest fear with our data is that our customers have trusted us with giving us a lot of information about them. And we need to be the stewards of those customers and make sure that anything we're doing with it, whatever tools that we're using, we're making sure that it is going in the right hands. It is not getting passed off in the right hands. We need to, those terms and conditions that no one reads, we need to read every single one of them to make sure. And if you don't know, I would say if you have a child who's deciding what to do in their future, right now have them be an IP attorney because they're going to have a job for a really long time. There's so much stuff that we don't know. So if you have not invested with a good lawyer who knows this stuff, I really, really implore you to go find someone to help you.
Great points. Building on that question, what sort of regulation should be in place to control the development of AI as well as the use of AI? That's come up in some conversations in Congress, but who do you think should, or what sort of regulations should be in place?
What should be in place?
Yeah.
I think is the magic question. I think, again, and I hate to keep pushing it back on all of us, but legal precedent is going to lag so far behind all of this technology. So we just need to make sure that we are thinking really hard about all these things we're doing, not in a scary way. You're writing tweets, you're editing videos, you're doing some things that are very, very easy, and that's hurting nobody. It's helping you with your business. But when you get into data, when you get into maybe you have something confidential from a meeting that you want to summarize, just think twice about before you're putting anything like that into a tool. So from a regulation standpoint, it really needs to be us. I do think government needs to get involved. I think there need to be guardrails in place. I don't think they should micromanage all of it, but I do think there needs to be guardrails in place. I mentioned, if anyone came to my sessions, that the city of Boston and Wired magazine both have really, really good policies in place that are on their website if you were thinking about trying to implement something with your own teams. And then our company, the Marketing AI Institute, wrote a responsible AI manifesto. And it sounds like this silly long name, but it really was things like I said, we need to think before we do things because legal is not caught up. And we need to partner with companies who we've read their terms and conditions and their use of their data. So it's just making sure we're doing all of this. And if it means getting a partner, then go find someone to help you.
Oh, this is going to be off script, but it did come up in some conversations. Misinformation is a really big deal. How do you combat that? Because there's maybe a couple years ago, people were using AI and having generating different voices and faces, and people were really believing. I mean, some of this stuff is really believable, but as communications professionals, like how do you combat that misinformation?
I think if it's something simple like ChatGPT or another tool outputting something, it's up to us to make sure that it's right, accurate, unbiased, and all of that. From a deepfake standpoint and all of that, and this election cycles, I don't even know the answer to that question. I don't think anybody does.
Just have to be vigilant and fact checking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to round it out a little bit. Elle, we're going to talk a little bit about social media. We've talked a lot about AI today, but we haven't really, as a group, discussed the integration of AI tools into social media. So in what ways have you seen the type of integration and what are the benefits of doing so?
So for Hunter right now, I have a big responsibility to the clients that we support and work with. And one of those is to work as fiscally responsible as I can. And so when we're committing to any paid or boosted or sponsored content. It's my job to make sure that I'm making those dollars work as hard as I can. And that goes back to the overarching strategy. But from an AI place, AI has given me tools I didn't even think could be possible. If you sat in my seminar, you heard me talk about being able to target pizza eaters who have ordered pizza in the last 30 days, been to the website in 15 days, ordered other fast food, and all these other behaviors that would have taken me so long to pull together, and I would have had to use several different media outlets to compile. Where with AI, I can kind of plug these things into my direct service provider, and it spits back out to me some recommendations of target audiences that it can build. In addition to building those audiences for me, it then can give me reporting to tell me that the target audience that we've kind of created, this artificial persona based off of all the cookies that we accept, this is the best time to deliver that message. And it might be like 4 a.m, but that guy is watching wrestling at 4 a.m, and that pizza ad is the right time. And it's been incredible to watch the ways in which that intel has helped us really strengthen the muscle of media buying, especially with regard to social media. And so with that, it's been great, as well as for my content team. I definitely don't want them to feel like they have job insecurity, and as well as being responsible for those clients' budgets instead of having to have a copy editor that's coming in and reviewing content and helping to kind of raise the bar. We do have some applications that we're using that are doing that editing for my content team to make sure that content is just top notch.
So it sounds like the benefits are data, market analysis, and you still are hiring people to help facilitate some of that AI work.
100%. For me, and I shared this in my group, and this is a new thing for me as well. And I've been buying media for over 25 years and have worked in marketing for that long as well. We're always evolving and learning, but a little bit of it is kind of dots and spots. And if you don't know what that means, it's kind of black and white. And the people, we're the ones that fill in the color for me, and have the experiences and have the heart and know it a little bit better. And it's nice to just have a safety net to help us be able to do. So what that means is that for my content team, they can do even more work because I have this secondary tool that can come in and just make sure that everything is buttoned up and tight and helps us schedule it and track it, make sure we're optimizing it correctly so that we can continue to do even more work.
Love it. So, because it is the social media summit, we're going to shift a little bit from AI and talk a little bit more with Elle about our favorite paid ads, particularly on some of the social media platforms with Instagram and Facebook. We've all encountered some challenges trying to put out educational material, and it's being flagged for political. And so we wanted to know if there's any types of tips or tricks you can offer, especially with the changing algorithms, anything you can do to help us get our message out, our education information campaign out.
Absolutely. And it probably is in the last 4 years specifically has probably become a thing that I have had to learn a lot about, especially not to get political, unintended, but when fake news kind of became a thing, it really made my job a little bit harder in trying to find authentic ways to get messaging out. And a lot of you in this room, I know, work for political institutions. And so right off the bat, you are kind of in trouble, right? Because right away, all the content that you're going to try to promote is going to almost immediately be flagged just because of your profile name. And so there are tips and tricks that you can do. One of them, the heaviest, hardest lift is to really pay attention to what is the kind of content. And if you sat in my sessions, you know that I made a joke about the Ringside Bar, which is a burger joint in Pearl Alley. And if you walk into the Ringside, you'll step in and you'll see to the left is a TV that has Fox News and to the right is CNN. And you'll kind of know who's at the bar by where they're sitting. Social media doesn't want to be Fox News or CNN, and they really want to be protective of the conversations that people are having. Now, that doesn't mean you can't personally talk about political things, but it doesn't want to become a space. And so making sure that if you are going to be putting a lot of content out there about an initiative that has nothing to do with vote for me or like me, but really is more informative, you can build a supportive letter of sorts and make a case to Meta specifically with exactly what you're looking for, the kind of content that you're going to be promoting and producing to get permissions to be able to promote that content. it still might get up for review, and they might have some questions about it. They might ask you to refine some of the content or rework some of the content that you're putting into it. But you can get through that red sticky tape pretty easily by just asking permission. And that comes from having a strategy and knowing the kind of content you're going to be producing. Another very simple way is as you're a more tricky way is to really think about keeping your content super simple and driving the conversation to another place, whether that's to a website, whether that's to a white paper, an article that was written, another place where that can get more politically engaged, and to just keep it as simple as possible with a great piece of creative that has no political really any connections, but can lead to a place to have a bigger dialogue. That's the most simple way to do that. And I would encourage you all to really be looking at the ways that you're optimizing your website as well, because that can help automatically with the overall and the ways in which that algorithm is going to gauge that content.
Thank you. That was very helpful. So my last question for you before I bring it back to the panel.
Can I say one more thing too?
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
of course.
And when it comes to like, you might be putting out content on your timeline that you don't want to boost or sponsor, and there's a difference between the two. But it is about the content, the words that you're using. There are words that you can source of all the hit words that are automatically going to get used. And if you are paying attention to words like the do not use word term list, that will help. But you could be putting content right on your timeline that's going to get flagged because you're using kind of those do not use words. And when it comes to boosting and sponsoring, you're only creating more visibility where they're going to police that content because, again, they don't want it to turn into like you heard the saying, like, don't talk about politics at dinner. Well, social media doesn't want to talk about politics at dinner.
No, thank you for that. I was kind of actually thinking about that. Like, oh, there's a list.
There is.
Words. Okay. Well,
There is definitely.
we need to go ahead and circulate that out to everybody so they could be informed. Great. Thank you. So my last question is one of my favorites. There's a lot of emphasis on storytelling. And so what are some strategies to help us create dynamic stories that can amplify our brands and help us to better engage our audiences?
Sure. If you sat in my session or if you know me personally, you know that this is like literally my favorite thing to talk about, as I am myself a storyteller. I think that this is a two-prong approach. Is one, really understanding your organization's goals on why, ask yourself, why am I using social media? Do I have these pages? Having that answer will help you identify what sorts of kinds of content you want to be putting there to hit your goals. And so as you're working with your teams to understand the messaging that they need in the community, or if it's a recruitment campaign, or if you're looking to build sentiment, and really understanding what are the goals. And in the session that I spoke to, I suggest really thinking about between 2 or 4 different brand pillars or brand goals that you're trying to get out, which could include a retail promotion, sentiment, recruitment, services, initiatives, and then really hyper focusing on content that makes sense for the media places. So if you're on Facebook versus Instagram versus TikTok, Threads, YouTube, really thinking about who is that audience. I recently met with a new client who shared with me that they were really hyper focused on trying to get messaging in front of Black men 18 to 24. And I asked them, well, where are you putting content for these gentlemen? And they said Facebook. And we're putting a lot of money behind it. And I was like, those guys aren't on Facebook. You're making a big mistake. Like your intention is good. The creative is not amiss, and you've picked the wrong platform. And so good intentions, bad marketing can lead to bad business, right? Yeah. And so I think really thinking about understanding your voice, understanding your goals, understanding kind of your brand pillars, and then thinking about where's this messaging going to go. All these different channels have a space. Twitter is kind of that tick, or Threads or x.com are really the ticks of like drive-by news. Great for media pickups. If you are an old press release writer, TikTok, Threads, x.com, you want to be there. You want to be present for those updates. Whereas TikTok and Instagram, super wickedly competitive with each other, are all about stories and photos and videos and romanticizing and teaching. Whereas Facebook is kind of like the king and the non-negotiable. So I think that doesn't mean that you have to post multiple times a day or multiple times a week, but I think being very intentional with the stories that you're creating and understanding what you want them to do with that, but then also putting it in the right place.
No, I'm glad to hear you talking about audience segmentation. I know when people were first getting started, they were just copy and paste on the same information on like different networks. I'm like, no, they all have different audiences. You have to be really intentional. So thank you for that. All right. So this is we're gonna ask a couple questions and then we're gonna open the floor for questions. This will be your time to ask what you want. So we always like to close out our panel with new media, social media trends. Twitter, admittedly, was my favorite, formerly known as Twitter. It's X. In terms of emerging trends this year, what are you seeing in this year's trends? It looks like original content is in. How does that translate to engagement and reach? And this is not just specific, it can be AI tools or whatnot, but we really just want to empower our attendees to get the resources and plan for the next thing. I mean, we're on Threads now, still trying to figure it out, still trying to untangle that. And then we're not changing our Twitter. We're gonna just keep it Twitter, but X, we're gonna stay on till it goes down in flames. So share some emerging trends or platforms we should be aware of.
I think this isn't necessarily an emerging trend, but I think it's a huge opportunity are influencers. It's a very affordable tactic. Sourcing influencers who have a great following, who align with your core values, to come and tell your story for you and show you the experience for you can go a long way as far as it's kind of like that friend versus like mom telling you not to do it, but a friend telling you why you shouldn't do it. You're more likely maybe to not do it if your friend told you. I don't know if that's true or not, but influence, I think, are a huge opportunity for social media, especially if you're finding yourself getting tied up in sticky tape, finding people who can help tell that story and then drive it back to you that then you can share and reshare and retweet or put in your story, I think is a great way to work around as well as wickedly affordable. There's more I could share too, but.
I'll just share. I think as an observer of what's evolving in media, social media, that with AI and emergence of social media now, I think there's an opportunity for individuals to create media personalities, create media content in a way that's much more accessible now than it was in the past. So being a podcast expert, being an influencer, et cetera, I think the opportunity is there to develop that and build that as it relates to what you're trying to accomplish. So I think we can all have a voice in a powerful way that maybe we couldn't before.
I was going to say, I think that like TikTok started this, Instagram stories did. I think COVID changed everything, but I really think, just from that human standpoint, it's so much more acceptable now to have these scrappy videos of something happening in your town. And it doesn't need to be highly produced is almost a turnoff in some instances. Like just go do something fun, show someone your personality, especially in the jobs you're doing. Someone just saw a little, energy and life and excitement, and it just would make it so much better. I think that's just such a socially acceptable and actually preferred thing in many instances.
I'm so glad. I just was going to say, to pick off of what you said, that I just lost my train of thought. That getting online, some of the tools that we have as far as like hunting for conversations that I think, and I talked about this with in one of our sessions too, was that really kind of dedicating at least 30% of your time, if this is your role, to creating content to publish, but really dedicating a large amount of your time to the engagement piece and hunting for conversations and engaging with like-minded individuals. And AI is a great tool to use to help hunt, like that pizza client I talked about. If I can plug into a tool to hunt for me anytime someone in Central Ohio says #pizza or pizza, if I have a tool that alerts me that my team can get in and engage with, or that tool could get in and engage with, I mean, game over, right?
Are there any platforms like with AI? A lot of things we do are planned out months in advance. We use different tools like maybe Sprout or Hootsuite. Is there anything like that, or any way we can use some of the AI tools to kind of push information out in advance that you're aware of that you can share?
Agora Pulse is one that I like that's becoming, AI is becoming more and more a part of it. Lately is one that I've tried, lately.ai is one I've tried. I haven't figured it out yet, but you might try it and love it. Contentware is someone that came to our event last week. And what I liked about them was it was rating me compared to our competitors and just kind of indexing us against the responses they were getting versus what we were getting. And it wasn't totally apples to apples, but it was something, some sort of measurement that I could just at least benchmark off of. I'm just kind of tinkering with that right now. But my gosh, there's so many.
Use Agora Pulse, and it's been really fun to watch the technologies integrate, and it's yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much. So now is the time we're going to open the floor. So if you have questions, and we use the mic because we have some online participants and they can't hear us if we don't have it. So Madison, if you have a question, let her know, raise your hand and she'll come to you with the mic. We're in a room full of communicators and no one has a question. This is the time to pick their brains. Thank you, Rebecca from Somerset.
Having grown up in Somerset and now living in Columbus, it's great to see Perry County represented with our mayor. How do you change your mindset from, even I'm 32 years old, but I grew up without a cell phone for most of that time. How do you change the concept of AI feeling like cheating versus really, as all of you have explained, it's just another tool in your toolbox. But how do you either talk to that as a team who could be full of different ages, or how do you kind of think about that personally?
Can I start? When you said that, I immediately was like, would you rather have your Webster's dictionary right next to your computer or spell check? I mean, if there was something that could make it easier and faster and burn less calories, I don't know. Yes.
I truly think that the time you save using some of these tools and the way it's augmenting into pulling different things out of your head, you can then go and make your own. Like, you always have to make it your own. Nothing you're taking out of any of these tools will you use verbatim. If you do, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. So, and I just feel like it leaves time for the things that really, really matter to you. Being more creative, being a good teammate, building a better culture, being creative. And those are the things that are going to separate you from anybody else.
I think the more you experience AI and use it and realize how difficult it is to get certain outcomes without having a lot of input into it, the more you appreciate that it is not necessarily cheating, but it's another tool in the toolkit that takes you where you're trying to go.
And actually, prompting takes a lot of creativity to get really what you want. So that could be your creative element you're looking for.
Well, I'll throw a question in. So how do you get past the intimidation piece? Because we're constantly being charged with looking at new tools. So what are some, like, just to get started, like, how do you know you're creating the right prompts, or what can you do to kind of break that ice and just jump right into, AI today?
Find something in your week that you spend a good chunk of time doing and think to yourself, is it data-driven, repetitive, trying to make a prediction? And pick one thing. Find one tool to help you do that one thing and try it. There's so many free tools out there. There's free 2-week trials. Just give it a shot. But have a plan on why you're using it. Don't just get a tool and try to see if it works, because it won't.
I would say play with it. I've kind of gotten addicted to, sitting down. Okay, it's my fun time now, and I'm gonna explore and see what's there. So that's helped me get comfortable with it and understand it.
And I did not grow up with YouTube. But there are also tons of, my husband has 8 different degrees from YouTube University. Go to YouTube if something feels intimidating, and I'm sure there's some kind of content video that can give you some tips on how to use it faster to make it seem less scary or intimidating. But YouTube is also your friend.
We started in February and created a 40-hour instruction course on how to use ChatGPT, and put a lot of effort into creating that, and pretty quickly realized that it's been overtaken by YouTube and what's available out there. So I think you're right that just start looking there. And as part of our workforce initiative, we're partnering with Hawking College and creating a tech cred course that's an 8-week facilitated online course to teach people how to use AI and how to identify a capstone project that they want to master, and then we facilitate them achieving it. So there's a lot of online content.
And the program that Mayor Johnson is talking about, it's Ohio Tech Cred, and you could be eligible to get reimbursement. Was it up to $2,000 per employee?
Yeah, up to $2,000 per employee, and it's total. There's no cost to the employer. The employer submits the application. So yeah, there's a lot of investment. There was another $50 million put in the budget this cycle for tech cred credentialing. So yeah.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Hello, Theodore. Oh, wow. Hi. So I was just curious your thoughts on, I feel like audiences are more interested in real life testimonials rather than influencer opinions because, there's so much sponsorship and buying that. I was just wondering if you had any information regarding that. I know that doesn't always come into play with government type social media and communications, but something that I'm noticing with audiences is they pay less attention to influencer opinion and would rather like those sprinkles of real life testimonial.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think of influencers, I'm not always necessarily thinking of paid influencers. I think if you have a strong social media listening plan in place, like I don't work with or for the Columbus Commons, but it just was an example that popped up. That if you're doing social listening, and if I was with the Columbus Commons, I would have someone on my team searching for people hashtagging Columbus Commons often. And I would be looking for those stories and experiences that people are sharing and things that tickle me and trigger me that align with what my marketing brand pillars are. And then I would hunt for those stories out to help that solicit more content, share more content, continue to tag me, because people who are maybe not as influenced as the official influencers, if you're someone who searches hashtags or joy gardens or butterflies, you're going to find each other. And if those things align with the industries that you do and you do a good job of optimizing your own content, they will find you too, and eventually potentially could have content of yours to share.
I was going to say that similarly, my sister runs an event in Cleveland once a summer. And this summer, her sister's nudging, that would be me, I said, why don't you go find those people that have come? This is a 19-year-old event. So she reached out to some folks that she had connected with, that she's become friends with over the past 2 decades. And she reached out to them and she said, I'd like to invite you to this event. I'm going to give you a certificate to go. It's like an outdoor open market with vendors, and it's really cool. Anyway, so she gave them all with no strings, said, here's $100 for you to use in any booth or multiple booths, however you want. And thank you so much for being here. The amount of social media that she got from those people did not ask for it, but she's made these connections that have lasted forever. And now it's like, they just want to be there. She could have asked them, could you just come do this? And they would have, but just that building that relationship and over has just been wonderful for her.
If there are no other questions, let's give our panel a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for all of your wisdom, knowledge. We're going to be using that. Just a couple of reminders. There is a survey. We definitely want your feedback. And we also look for ideas, things that we could talk about for the next social media summit. And then here is our announcement for our summit. Oh, no, there it is. Our summit on sustainability, but the QR codes are around the room, and then we'll also send it to you via email. But here's an event you may want to just keep on your radar. It's our biggest sustainability summit, and that is happening in October. So again, thank you all for being here. We can put the QR code back up. And so you can mix and mingle, and let's give them again a round of applause, and thank you all.